The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, episode 104.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter, aka Father Fett, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Just a quick plug, I know this is Christmas week, but if you are looking for a perhaps belated Christmas present for your favorite Star Wars fan, you can get your own Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt or give it away to your family members and friends. You can get coffee mugs, stickers, magnets, all sorts of things, phone cases as well. That encapsulates our philosophy of finding hope in a galaxy far, far away. And you can check out all of those cool items at sqpn.com/merch. Perfect post-Christmas gift for your favorite Star Wars fan in your life. Also, of course, just remember to please share the podcast on your favorite social media as it gets us seen by more people, and leave us a review because that lets us know how we're doing. Plus, it allows us to be seen by more people. So we always want to hear what you guys are saying and get seen by more people who would be interested in hearing us talk Star Wars. So today we are going to be discussing the current state of Star Wars as we are preparing for an awesome season of new shows coming out this next year. And we're going to talk about all the things that we're excited about going forward. So joining me tonight on the panel is, first up, the Wandering Ronin himself, Thomas Sanherho.
It's great to be here.
Second up is the Bendu, Angela Ciolana.
Yes, hello. Are you feeling like you're in balance tonight or today?
I feel like we're sort of imbalanced. There's, three guys and one of you this evening. So third and finally this evening, coming all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, our wonderful CEO, Dom Bettinelli, who we're calling Boss Mass at the moment.
Misa, glad to be here. That is the last time I will ever do.
No, you got to do it every time now.
Oh,
That's
man.
it now.
I have to go.
You started
it. What's great is no matter what is that now is recorded forever. So you can't get away from it.
That's true.
So it is awesome to have Dom joining us this evening since he doesn't get to join us very often. So we get to talk about all the cool, fun things about Star Wars with him. And so we're going to start actually by getting his opinions of Star Wars Visions. Since the rest of us have already done kind of our recap and review of all the episodes, we're going to get his hot minute take of what he liked about Star Wars Visions. I'm very curious to know what your favorite episode is and your least favorite episode, and your general impressions overall of the series.
Okay, so up front, I was not into anime, so I'm not an aficionado. Although I really enjoyed listening to you guys talk about it, and especially from folks like Thomas who knows anime and getting the inside scoop on this stuff. So that actually increased my enjoyment of the season. I would say it's a tough pick to pick my favorite. I'm kind of between The Elder and The Ninth Jedi because, having Hopper as a Jedi, David Harbour is kind of cool because Hopper is the best. The Red Guardian as well. But also I like you guys talked about in your episode discussion, The Ninth Jedi is the story that feels like it's got the most potential to be more than that. I'm I kind of go between those. Although I have to also say I really like Ronin, but I think it might be the Ninth Jedi for me. My least favorite, I just watched last night. I finally finished the season, and I watched Akakiri, and that was kind of weird. There were things I liked about it, but it was kind of okay. I sort of left, but the one that really left me cold, like I just had no feeling for it, was the twins. It just kind of happened, and I'm like, it was sort of it wasn't. I don't know. It's kind of hard to talk about it, but it just sort of was there, and it didn't have a big impact on me. So that would be my least favorite, I think.
It's kind of fun to get your take on it, because actually, Angela and Thomas, I want you guys, if you have your top favorite, least favorite kind of processing in your mind, because I'd like to hear that too. I'll go next, because I actually was kind of thinking about this too. It's funny because I would say my favorite oscillates between Tatooine Rhapsody and the twins. So sort of opposite of you, Dom. And I guess the reason that I like the twins is because I love kind of the twin kind of bond. And I'm stemming from all the Legends materials and stuff too, with the twin relationships that I've really grown to like. So I really do kind of like that kind of one light side, one dark side kind of idea. And then Tatooine Rhapsody, I'm just like, that music is just kind of stuck in my mind. But I do share your opinions of Akakiri. That would be my least favorite. So Thomas and Angela, I'd love to hear what you guys overall, what you loved, what you didn't.
I'll go next. So after having watched them all, I liked Akakiri. I don't want to feel like it's like dropped off the bottom for everybody. So I really liked Akakiri. I liked the feel of it. I liked the way it went, but it's not my favorite. My favorite was The Village Bride. By far and away, that one really just captured my attention. It caught all of the anime feel for me and everything. So I really enjoyed that one. I think my least favorite was probably Toby, TOB1. Just because, and it's a tie really between that one and the twins, honestly, because the twins is weird, but I know what they were going for this like kill feel, which is kind of, there's an everyday element to the longer running shows, and then they go into the crazy stuff like that, where it's just kind of like wacky, and then there's regular stuff, and then it's wacky and regular stuff. So they were going for that, and all they could fit into it was the wacky, and that's kind of where that one ended up. But yeah, so I would say probably TOB1, my least favorite.
Well, I feel like you're putting me on the spot, which you are. But I would say my least favorite, I'll start with that so that I can end on a good note, was TOB1, just because I felt like I couldn't really connect to it that much. I definitely appreciate it, but yeah, just didn't resonate with me. I would say probably my top is a tie between Ninth Jedi. Is that?
Ninth Jedi.
Is that right? Ninth Jedi. There's so many words in my brain right now. Ninth Jedi and Village Bride. Village Bride, I really liked the spiritual element to it, the Force element that I felt was probably the strongest in that one versus any of the other ones. So, of course, that's one of the reasons I love Star Wars. So I've got to go with those two. But, Tatooine Rhapsody, that's the one that I want to have a t-shirt for, like that's the fun one. Like, yeah. So nice. Those are my picks.
Very good. So we are now going to venture into the realm of the unknown and talk about all the upcoming Star Wars projects that are in the works. And I was somewhat surprised as I was putting together this list. I was mentioning this to Dom beforehand, but there is a lot coming. I almost kind of took offense at all the people online saying that Marvel seems to be prioritizing, all the Marvel stuff, or Disney is prioritizing Marvel over Star Wars. And at the same time, I'm like, there is a lot coming. So I want to say that maybe we're just maybe a year behind all the Marvel stuff. So like this year we had 4 different shows from Marvel?
Yes.
And then I kind of think we're going to see the same thing next year with Star Wars.
Yep.
And so
I
I
with
think
Marvel too. So
Yeah,
we
well,
are
yes.
kind of behind Marvel a little bit,
but not necessarily like they're prioritizing it like some people are claiming. And so we're gonna talk about all the upcoming shows, and I'm gonna mention what I think is gonna happen, and I'm gonna put this out there just because I want to see if I'm gonna be right or completely wrong.
Making the prediction first, yeah.
So I, in kind of looking at they did with Marvel, I sort of expect we're going to get a new show probably every roughly 3 months or so. So I've kind of split up the year into 3 months. And so I'm Book of Boba Fett, of course, is coming out. We know that one, December 29th. And then it's 7 episodes. And we're assuming it'll be released weekly. So I'm thinking, the first quarter of 2022, I'm expecting Bad Batch season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm expecting midway through the year, Mandalorian season 3. I'm expecting Andor to be kind of third quarter. And then I would expect Kenobi to have a December release. So I still 2022, but I bet it's coming like the Book of Boba Fett. So I don't know if you guys have any rebuttals or other.
Right. It sounds about right to me. I mean, just looking at how the production schedules and announcements have come our way.
Do you think the Bad Batch season 2 will be that early? I mean, that feels early to me for them to animate that.
Maybe, but they could have already started it like the moment they ended season 1, at least with production of it.
Right.
Since that's easier to do than pulling in live actors.
Right. That's true.
I'm not sure because I don't think the Mandalorian season 3 would be at all earlier, but just because they just started filming recently, I think, on that one.
They started September, I think it was, or something like that, or even a little earlier. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe those would get swapped, but I imagine it's easier to, and maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know how.
Andor, they've been shooting for a while, haven't they? Like even when the pandemic started, they were making adjustments to their production situation to continue shooting Andor, I believe. That's the one we got the sizzle reel for, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what's going on with Star Wars. Like you talk about Star Wars being behind. There's two things that make Star Wars set behind Marvel. First off, Marvel's already steamrolling everything. So they are actually ramping down on Marvel stuff now. And if people aren't realizing that, then they need to kind of pay a little more attention because the stuff is actually like toning down a little bit because they've passed their big phase. They need to wait until they get to the next phase. Otherwise they're going to like push everything too fast. And so that's good. But then where we are with Star Wars is we're still at that first phase of where they were with the Marvel stuff. And they're figuring out now how to make kind of these phase movements for Star Wars as well. And I love seeing them do this because it means that we're going to get a lot more Star Wars and it's all going to tie in together the same way the MCU does, which is phenomenal. And it means that we get a return to like the expanding universe of Star Wars where everything kind of touches each other, but then goes a little bit further out.
Yeah, they have said that there's the Mandoverse, which includes Book of Boba, Ahsoka, and what was it? In the Mandalorian,
it was going to include the Rangers series, I think.
Right.
And Boba Fett,
which got canceled.
Right, and Boba. Well, I keep hearing different things about Rangers, whether it's actually canceled or they're going to kind of divide up what they were going to do in that into the other series instead, or revitalize it or some other way. And I mean, it's just kind of, I think they haven't really said definitively, but yeah. So I think you've got the Mandoverse, but then they keep exploring these other parts of the timeline. They got Andor and Kenobi and Ahsoka was the other one that is part of the Mandoverse, and then you got whatever's going on after the sequel movies. That whole area, that whole time. And that we've got the movie. I think they're going to explore that with movies and explore that post Return of the Jedi with series. And that seems to me how they're starting to pan out.
I would suspect that I know that they're eventually going to go and tell stories post sequel trilogy. I think they're sort of nervous to jump into that realm too much yet, with kind of the divisiveness of the sequel trilogy. And I think since they're finding such a good response to all the post Return of the Jedi stuff, that I think that's definitely the series are gonna hit there really hard. And I think that's great. We don't really even know. We know that there's a few movies in production, but we don't even know anything beyond that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Even like when they're going to be set. I'm hoping that we get one of them set in the Old Republic.
But yeah, I think I just have a feeling that with all the publishing that's coming out in that particular era, that they're kind of trying to test the waters and see what the fan reaction is to the ideas around the High Republic, because, they had that big writers kind of summit at Skywalker Ranch that we mentioned in a previous episode, that basically, they got all their big guns and they were trying to, I think, at least I got the feeling that they were not only trying to get the publishing side of it right, but that they were probably going to be planting some seeds for a High Republic movie, because that was mentioned a couple of years ago that they were wanting to set a movie in that era. So we've got a lot of different, books coming out in that particular era. And I'm wondering if they're going to try a series before they do a film.
Well, they've already announced The Acolyte, which is set in the High Republic era as a series, but no word on when. They just at that big Disney day, that they did in December of 2020. That was on the screen. It's a mystery thriller. This is the way they framed it.
Well, and the new game that's coming out is set in the High Republic's Eclipse, and I wouldn't discount that as a cinematic experience, because it's from a game company called Quantic Dream, who did games like Detroit Becoming Human and Beyond Two Souls, which are very cinematic games. They're not RPGs in the traditional sense where, you go and amass a bunch of gear and fight. They're very focused on the storytelling. So much so that a lot of it was like mocapped Willem Dafoe's face for one of them. And so it's, they might be, and I hope they are. I really hope that they're starting to value that the community around Star Wars and the fact that you can produce a very high quality canon game that actually expands the story of the universe without having to be, its own separate thing that doesn't really count.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the trailer for Star Wars Eclipse?
Yeah.
Several times.
I mean, that's one of the really cool things about especially video games in the more recent years and even the last decade is that cinematic quality of them. Like, I mean, watching that trailer, it was almost astounding that I'm sure it was all CGI, but it looks real. Mm-hmm. I mean, it and those kind of stories are I mean, they have such a scope that they can go into that a movie can't, or that even a TV series can't. And that, I mean, they did that in the expanded universe before Disney purchased Lucasfilm. So, I mean, characters like Kyle Katarn had his own series of video games, and then he was even brought into the novels, and I mean, all of that kind of stuff. So even back then they all connected. And I do find it a little bit, I agree with you, Thomas. I really hope that this is a way for them to expand the universe. At the same time, though, I also recognize that I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And, in particular with say the High Republic, the novels, and all of that, because there's novels, there's young adult books, there's kid friendly books, there's comics, and there's all of these other avenues of reading about the High Republic. And I'm feeling like I need to read everything in order to understand what's going on, which I know I don't, but there's still a part of me that's like a completionist that I feel like I'm missing out. And so I'm kind of Actually, I haven't been jumping into that as much as I thought I would, because I'm sort of worried I'm going to be just kind of overwhelmed by it all. So I've read the first novel and I enjoyed it, but I didn't connect with it like I thought I would. And then, yeah, again, like trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? Do I go with the comic? Do I go with the young adult book?
I think some of it's because it's a totally new space, and that's as much as everybody complains. Oh well, everybody in Star Wars is always in the main Anakin Skywalker, circle. There's a reason that works, right?
I've read the adult novels that have been out so far of it.
Mm-hmm.
The two, and there's another one coming in January. I read one of the young adult novels and one of the middle grade novels just to kind of get a sense of them, and there's an interesting, compelling story, and frankly, I love seeing the Jedi Order at its glory, at its best. Not in its decadence like in the prequels, but when it was at its best, and that's fun. I'm enjoying that, but I agree. There's so much content. But I'm starting to realize that I really don't need to read. Like, they're writing them in such a way that they reference the other novels. Like the adult novel will reference something that happens in a middle grade novel. But if I don't read the middle grade novel, it's not like I can't follow the story. So that's fine by me. There's a few elements in the adult novels that I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I want my 11-year-old to read this, but maybe if we talk about it, where a Jedi violates his oath, like Anakin and Padme did, that whole thing. And it's like, I kind of wish that sort of stuff didn't creep in. But the young adult and middle grade novels didn't have that stuff. So that was better, frankly. So yeah, I agree. Like, I'm looking forward to The Acolyte. I think it'd be very interesting to see this era in live action. So that would be kind of cool. So that I hope they do explore more of the timeline. I mean, there's so much there, much more than the Marvel gives you in that sense,
I think I have to like rein in my completionist kind of attitude.
Yes.
It was much easier when all the Legends books were coming out, because it was just, you just picked up the next book and it was like it was part of the universe and it just continued the story. And there wasn't this, there were comics too, but the comics, they were part of it, but I don't think they were as integral as they are trying it now. So I need to maybe jump back into that just a little bit. The video game definitely would draw me in, because that looks absolutely amazing. The Acolyte also, I hope we get a cameo from Darth Plagueis in that, because like that would be right maybe during his timeline, because it would be I think it's set like at the end of the High Republic era.
There's been some leaks about that particular, supposed leaks, right? Because you never know. But about the first script being called Paradox, and that it has to do with the protagonist, wondering, kind of towing the line between dark side and light side and struggling with that. Which is not like we've never seen that before, but to see that in that particular era, again, when the Jedi are at their prime, that's going to be interesting if there is some truth to that. So we shall see.
The other area that I would love for them to explore, and I mentioned this earlier, would be the Old Republic era, which I don't know if that's officially canon or not, but kind of just maybe referenced here and there. But what I think potentially will bring that into canon fully is we do have a remake coming of Knights of the Old Republic, the awesome Xbox video game that came out. I want to say it came out like 20 years ago. I mean, it's
been a while.
It's So, but a remake implies that like they're putting, it's not just they're not just porting it over to a new system, but they're actually going to upgrade graphics. And I think they have a whole new, even voice cast or even mocap for it. So, so I think maybe that would be the first kind of step into the Old Republic era, as well as, what they're doing with everything else. And I hope to see more of that.
Almost 20 years. 2003 was its release.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, that's been such a big game. And I mean, it's holds up incredibly well with,
it's
with
still playable.
Everything else.
Still very much playable. If you can find a copy of it, I definitely recommend it. If you want to wait for the special, remake, then go for it. But
So I want to ask a quick question because, the game thing, you had mentioned Kyle Katarn, and so many people were hoping that Kyle Katarn would show up in The Mandalorian, or there would be some connection to him, that, I don't know, any of the movies. I think when Rey had all those Jedi talking to her that, he would show himself somehow. There's been all kinds of, suggestion that he could show up in Star Wars again, or that they would base a character on him. Do you think that is in the realm of possibility? What would be your percentage of, whether that actually could happen or not?
I think it's fairly low because unless there's someone like a Favreau or a Filoni who's championing a particular character from Legends, I don't think it happens.
Right. The way that they brought in Thrawn to Star Wars Rebels was seamless. I mean, it fit perfectly, and it was the same character that we all knew from pre Disney. I think if you have, I don't think they're going to just port Kyle Katarn into the new Star Wars universe because he's from a different universe, and I think if they tried to modify him but keep his name, I think that would upset a lot of people. And I don't think that's what Disney is wanting. They might try to base, kind of a character on his personality type. They've done things like, and I still don't know how I feel about this, but things like Hera's
Jason
son. Yeah. Jason, taking my absolute favorite character from Legends and bringing his name into canon in this way. I still don't know how I feel about it because it's not the same character very clearly, but they're also trying to honor a Legends character with the name, but it's not going to be the character that I loved,
Right. But that character that you love, there's just really no way at this point in the canon that he could be part of the canon.
Nope. I totally look at this as the multiverse of Star Wars. And so I just go and read, the different universe for a while and then jump back into the main, the main continuity timeline.
I mean, we're not going to have a scene where it's oh, by the way, Han, Leia, do you remember this kid? Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Not quite.
Just goes to show how good a parents they were, right? Just all around. They're so focused on Ben. I don't know. I don't see Kyle's character being relevant in Star Wars the way it is now. I think the idea of his character was really cool because he kind of touched every single different faction all along the way, but he was really part of the rise of the new Jedi Order, and we're not getting that. That's not that's something that they very clearly said with these last few movies. That ship sailed. It's maybe it's happening, but it's happening after even those movies, not after Return of the Jedi.
There's an interesting thought. I mean, I never really considered it. Rey could be the one who is building that back up post Rise of Skywalker. Whereas
I would love to see that
and failed.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a really great way for her character to carry on the story after that series, and just okay, let's not play too much with what happened in the series, but let's see what happens next and just focus on that. I'd be in for that.
What about Broom Kid? Maybe Broom Kid's name is Kyle.
There you go.
I would love to see Rey start something of Force users doing good who aren't the Jedi. They don't follow the old Jedi stupid rules and they do something new, because because that was a bad idea, obviously, at least at the end. But that it's something new that follows this balance that she has found, or something. That would be interesting.
Well, and we don't know yet where, like, say, Ahsoka's story is going to go, because Ahsoka is one of those characters who, clearly she is no Jedi, but she's also not a Sith either, she's trying to do good in the galaxy and in her own way. I mean, she wasn't in the sequel trilogy, but there are plenty of reasons perhaps why she didn't show up in the movies, so she could be potentially involved there too. Can we talk for a second about the Ahsoka series? Because of any of the series I'm excited about. I mean, I'm excited about all of them, but I'm really excited by this one from the rumors, because this is almost like Star Wars Rebels Part 2, because not only do we have a Thrawn and a Sabine, but are we going to have an Ezra? I mean, if you got Thrawn, you're going to have the Ezra, because Thrawn and Ezra, they're at the hip, at the end of Rebels. And, maybe a Rex, because I know an actor who could play Rex. He's already under contract with Disney. He is active in Star Wars even. I mean, who else? I mean, can we get other actors from Rebels? It's almost like it's Rebels 2, that in that sense. Kind of funny that way. I think that's, I'm sure that's exactly how Dave Filoni is looking at it, as the continuation of the story that he purposely left as a cliffhanger at the end of Rebels.
Right.
What I'm really curious about with that series is the tone of it, because with Rebels, it got to some dark periods, but not in the sense of darkness that like The Mandalorian was. Just in the feeling of the grit, some of that has to do with being real, live action and in animated, but, everything has a tone, and Ahsoka is so dear to Dave Filoni, almost like a daughter to him, that I just wonder how much of it is going to be that kind of mysterious Ahsoka that we got, in Mandalorian, where she's like this, she's hiding behind the trees and she's on the roof and it's very, very like Kung Fu, movie type of. And at the same time, we saw Ahsoka be so playful with Anakin in Rebels and in Clone Wars in particular. So I really am curious what they're going to do with that series in that particular, especially again, because you're saying Thrawn's going to be in it. And, I just feel like, are they going to go with another series that has that kind of heavy feeling of mystery? I mean, you've got that, you've got Book of Boba Fett, which is almost certainly going to have that, mobster kind of feel. And then Andor, which is a spy type of show. Hopefully we'll have some humor in there. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What are your guesses?
I wonder if we're going to have a shift in tone, because The Mandalorian is all kind of from Din Djarin's perspective. So he would have looked at Ahsoka as this mysterious figure and an unknown, entity. And that's exactly how he runs into her on that planet. But I almost think that they have to shift the tone a little bit, because surely Dave Filoni is going to honor Rebels, Clone Wars, and the history that we all know in who Ahsoka is and her personality, but also just the characters, Ezra, Thrawn, Sabine. I think it almost has to shift to maybe Ahsoka's perspective a little bit, which I think I'm with you. I'm hoping is a little bit lighter, and I mean it is dealing with some heavy stuff, and Thrawn and Ezra are lost, and she's trying to find him, and but at the same time, Ahsoka's even in Rebels she was pretty upbeat and optimistic, and and I don't think that they would want to keep two shows that have too similar of a tone.
I think especially if you get Sabine and Ezra, and you get more of that Rebels feel back in it, I mean, I'm not sure you could do. I mean, Rebels. A lot of the fun was in Chopper and in. I'm forgetting his name. What was the Lasat? Zeb.
Zeb. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the humor was in a lot of times in Zeb and Chopper and Ezra's interaction, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get Zeb back into it. That would be interesting to figure out how to get a Lasat in live action. But you could bring I think having more Rebels people in it lends itself more toward having more of the Rebels tone, the lighter Rebels tone. So I'd like to see that.
Well, and especially if you end up throwing Ezra and Sabine together, because they have such a playful sibling kind of relationship that was very lighthearted and fun and jovial.
But now they're older. I mean, Sabine probably went to war with her people, and Ezra, Lord knows what he's been through with Thrawn.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm just from an actor's perspective too, Rosario Dawson is a complete wild card because she can do either. But it's very rare to see her in like a really upbeat role. Even in comedies, she tends to be kind of the
serious one.
The serious one and gets played off of that way. So I don't know. She can do it. I've seen her do it before, but she's knowing her be in this role and seeing what she's done with it so far, which, like you were saying, Father, that could just be because of the show that it was on. I would be tentative to say that we're going to get a particularly positive Ahsoka out of this one.
You mentioned Andor, and I feel like that will have. I mean, it's still going to be a spy, theme. I feel like that's going to have a lighter tone a little bit more. Although we know K2SO doesn't show up in the first season. Alan Tudyk has told us clearly, but he said it's not going to be in the first season, which leads me to believe that there are going to be multiple seasons of Andor, which is kind of interesting. And it would be funny. It would be kind of strange because Andor, we know how he ends up. It's one of those things where his ending is known and it's a tragic ending. So you've got to balance that tone with something, you can't start the series on a down note and be all down the whole way through that. That's not Star Wars. That wouldn't be good.
Right. I mean, as we've always kind of talked about, hope is, kind of like the underlying theme of everything. So even in the Andor series, I mean, he doesn't know what his end is. So, I mean, he's going to be, fighting the good fight as he knows how and what and his own, personal desires there. But
I want a buddy cop show with Andor and a Bothan spy. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. I was just thinking buddy cop. I'm trying to remember. I don't know why I can't think of that really, just a classic police TV show.
Starsky and Hutch?
No.
That's very old.
It's one guy's name. Why can't I think of this? Huh?
Columbo?
Yes, Columbo.
There you go.
Andor as Columbo. That would be good. So I'm thinking about, a imperial
I mean, because he's got the personality, right?
He does. He's got the accent. He could be a Perot. Her cool Perot sort of thing.
Well, and so that also, I mean, not to do too many comparisons to Marvel, but I mean, that's kind of what they've done too, is they've had these completely out of the blue genres for the different TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
And they've really worked. And so I'm excited to see some of these different feels and tones in some of these new shows. I mean, a spy thriller definitely, kind of gets me excited, because, I grew up on Bond and, just some of those kind of shows or those movies. And I liked the character of Cassian. So I am sad that K2SO is not in there because he was very, very clearly the comedic side of things. But if he's in season 2, I'm happy to wait for that.
Yeah.
Maybe like an old school Mission Impossible.
Oh,
that'd be fun.
That would be good.
It reminds me, there's a Timothy Zahn novel and of course I am blanking on the name, but it was written before Disney. It's a Legends book, but he wrote a heist story with Han Solo, and it was really fun to read because it was just like totally Star Wars, but totally something completely different than what you're normally reading, and it was a lot of fun. So to see something like that in Andor would be really fun.
Oh no, wait. We gotta go spy show. Get smart. Star Wars Get Smart.
He has to have a communicator in his boot.
in his boot. There you go.
Stormtrooper shoots at him, misses, and he goes, missed by that much.
Oh, that's totally feasible. Yeah.
Well, if you want a heist movie type series, what about the Lando series that they announced that we haven't heard nothing about? I mean, that would be. Now, talk about tone. That would be an awesome, fun romp, I think. It should be.
Is Glover doing that one? Do we know?
So he hasn't been announced, I don't think, but neither is Billy D. Williams. So I think it could be a combination of the two, or I bet Donald Glover is way more the likely.
Yeah.
Which I think is.
I would hope so, but
I don't think that they've officially announced really anything beyond that it's coming.
Okay.
But that would be perfect for his show. And you can imagine the Lando series is gonna be lighthearted, and I mean the Lando swagger, and I mean all of that has got to be a part of that.
Oh yeah.
And the relationship with the droid, that's gonna
right.
I'm hoping that makes it in there.
And of course the Falcon would be in it. We'd have to have the Falcon. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be good. Yeah, but again, that one is even further out. I mean, who knows? Yeah.
I mean, it was announced last year, but I don't think it's
going to be
2023. Yeah, or later. I mean,
later.
The Ahsoka, the Acolyte, Lando, all of those are 2023 or later.
Yeah.
And then of course, if there is, and I assume there would be, a Mandalorian season 4. Would be that late too. Yeah. There is another animated show coming called A Droid Story, and that one does look really fun. It's R2D2 and C3PO, I think, are interacting with a new character on adventure. So that one looks very kid friendly. But that one also has no estimated release date as well.
Well, let's talk about, if we can, Kenobi, because that one, I mean, I talk about tone. I mean, that is going to be the return to the big high adventure story of like the movies. You know, you're going to have, you know, Hayden Christensen in it. You're going to have Darth Vader, and I'm just trying to figure out like how like what's he going to do? Are they going to interact? Are they going to see each other again? I mean, the mind boggles.
They've teased a fight between Darth Vader and Kenobi.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm thinking they're going to do here. I think that they're going to have a parallel tale between the two of them. And, you know, Kenobi is coming into his own through the meditation, through the solitude, whereas Vader is ramping up this empire. And you know he's having PTSD. So there's all sorts of stress streams going on. And that's what I think you're going to be getting there, because they've done a couple of runs of comics where it's been like very much inside of Vader's head. And they were so good because they get really epically dark and strange and really kind of show this person who's completely fallen to who they are. And even builds the original series up, because you see this guy that's just stuck not only inside of a machine but inside of his own head.
Yeah,
that would be a really interesting way to do it.
Yeah. I've been reading the Kenobi book by John Jackson Miller that our own Father Fett gifted to me, and I'm about halfway through, but it actually does take place right after Kenobi drops Luke off on Tatooine and gets his start on the planet. It's kind of like reading a Western. And so that makes it fun. I don't know if they are going to go that route. Basically in the book, Kenobi is failing to learn how to be incognito and be, completely uninvolved in everyone's lives surrounding, when he goes in for feed for his animal and, supplies basically into town in these little towns. And then he ends up getting snatched into their goings on. So that's all very interesting. And I wonder if that's going to be part of it, because I think a lot of people have been imagining that this series will be kind of like, Christ in the desert or something, just a whole lot of meditation and sand and not much else. So yeah, it's really, it can go in so many different ways, because of course we've had decades to imagine what this period of time was like, that there's been so many theories that have been cooked up. So I'm kind of hoping that they will take some inspiration from this particular book, just because what I love about it is the shift in Obi-Wan's character that he really has to make. If you really think about all that he's been through, he's seen the downfall of the Jedi, and everything has happened at once for him. A whole lot of tragedy has happened at once for him. And all of a sudden, he has to learn to be alone in a way that he's never quite been before, in a metaphysical sense, So all of that combined with his knack for kind of mischief in a way, and,
getting in trouble,
sliding into those bars and all that good stuff.
There needs to be backstory with the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yes.
It's gotta happen.
Yes,
absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah.
And if that one has a Western feel, then there we go with another different kind of tone and feel for these shows, which would be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, I The Mandalorian has pulled from some of that, but I think more so from like the gunslinging type of aspect of those Westerns, whereas this one is more slice of life type of thing. So I'm talking about the book. So yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if they pull inspiration from it. Because that's what they've been trying to do with a lot of Legend stuff, is to pull some of that in to honor it.
Yeah. I think Mando series is more. I'm sorry, the Mando series is more like a spaghetti Western. Yeah. And this sounds more like a John Wayne Western.
Exactly.
It has a very different feel of a Western. That would be kind of cool.
Well, and speaking of The Mandalorian, we got to talk about, Bo-Katan and Din on their fight to who's who's Mandalore. Right. and even that, it's a space spaghetti Western,
Right.
Any predictions on where they're going to go? Or if Grogu's going to make an appearance again?
Okay, that's the most important question of this entire podcast. Will we see Grogu in season 3? Because I tell you, there's a lot of concern in this house where I live.
and potentially, are we going to see Luke again?
Right. If there's Grogu, is there Luke? That's a big question.
I tend to think we're going to get a cameo, but I don't. I think that him as the focal point of the story is gone. I think the focal point of the story is now Mandalore.
Yeah.
Now, here's my prediction: we're going to see Luke again. Luke's going to be grabbing him by the scruff of the neck and toss him at Mando and say, "I can't train him. You keep."
Oh.
I think you're right that the focus has shifted, and I think that's what the big focus of this Mandoverse is going to be about, is Mandalore, the recovery of Mandalore, the rise from the ashes of Mandalore, and I think Boba Fett will be a part of that. I think Ahsoka is going to be a part of that, and so that's going to be an interesting.
Sabine could be part of that also.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. House Wren.
I am willing to bet that Grogu was not as large a figure in the second season initially imagined, and because of the reception of him in the first season, he got a much larger part in the second season.
Yeah.
But Filoni wants to go back to kind of his original, like, hey, wait, this is a story about the Mandalorian, not the Baby Yoda, right?
Right. Right.
But I think like they did it in such a way that, I mean, Grogu captivated everyone, and so you were immediately invested. You know, Thomas, you're gonna know that Cub Wolf and Cub, is that the
Lone Wolf and Cub? Yep.
Lone Wolf and Cub. You know, so that whole image and relationship draws everyone in. I mean, even like, you know, the moms and the dads and the kids, everybody loves Grogu, you know, and but it's time now to let Din you know, leave the nest and go off on his own. But I think if they'd started with, like, say, season 3 as season 1, the diehards of Star Wars would have loved it, but you wouldn't have gotten the investment of all the other fans for the last 2 years. So I really love that they've just taken their time with this. And I know there's a part of me that's impatient that wants it all, but there's now 2 years of investment.
You were just complaining about that a minute ago, that there was too much coming out all at once. So we could pace ourselves.
Yeah. Well, that's the paradox of the fandom. Slow down. I can't absorb it all, but send more.
Yeah. Any quick predictions on the Bad Batch season 2? Because that's also coming up fairly quick too.
They surprised me so much with the first season. I don't even want to make predictions because I'm ready to be along for the ride.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is they have to develop the clone thing, the cloning facility, and I kind of feel I've been saying this the entire time of the season 1, and I'll say it now. I feel like they're going to make some connection to Grogu in that one. Like, speaking of Grogu, because he's got to come up somewhere. Like this doctor, what's his name?
Pershing.
Yep. Yes, I want to say Pushkin. Pershing. He comes from the same place. He's got the thing on his uniform. They're making these connections on screen. They've got to they got to pay that off at some point.
Right.
And my thought on all of that is that this is an underlying current of explanation of leading to Snoke's backstory. So you know. Which I'm okay with. I think this is a good way to kind of explore that, and I think we're going to see some of that, and you know, with Omega as well. And
and I was going to say one of my predictions was that Omega might show up on the Ahsoka series somehow, or some of the other one of the other series in live action, because I think everybody loved her, and. I don't know. She gives me those vibes of, you know, bring her to, especially because she was revealed to be Boba's sister, and we're getting Book of Boba Fett. So maybe that series would be a better fit. Who knows?
That would also be a fun one, because they could cast her and we would never really know. Like, they could totally keep us in the dark on that one for a live action version. Which would be really cool to see. I also wonder if we'll get Boba Fett to interact with Omega in the Bad Batch season 2 in an animated form. Because they could potentially pull Daniel Logan back in to do Boba Fett and have an interaction there. So all sorts of fun stuff. We'll kind of at least hit the movies.
We got to talk about the best one. We got to talk about the best one coming out. In January, there's a golden book being released called The Faithful Wookiee.
Oh.
It is based on the story from the 1978 Christmas special. So
oh no. Oh no.
That's the best. That's what we're I don't know. The cover looks like it's the exact same art.
Oh no.
So is it going to be like just growls and they're cooking life day dinner?
I don't know. I was, when we started talking about, what are we looking forward to? I was like, what is coming out? And then the first thing that pops up in 2022 is The Faithful Wookiee. And I'm like, what?
But does B. Arthur show up in it?
Oh.
And Art Carney. Oh my God.
So just to hit the movies upcoming that are coming, we actually don't know a whole lot. We do know that there is a Rogue Squadron movie.
Yes.
That was like potentially in jeopardy. And then the most recent news that I saw was that Patty Jenkins like stepped away from one of her other projects so she could devote time to Wonder Woman and Star Wars. So so that's
they have a date
coming.
They have a release date, December 22nd, 2023.
Right.
Oh,
so
okay,
I hopefully that sticks. I wasn't sure with all the potential turmoil if that was going to push it back, but that one's still going as far as we know. You know, so that one, I mean, they could pull inspiration either from I mean, there's the video games, of course, but also there's the Rogue Squadron novels in the Legends universe that they could pull inspiration from.
Yeah. Apparently it's set post the sequels is what the last I've seen.
Sequels. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay, that changes my whole mentality completely, because the Legends books were I think they took place, I mean, post Return of the Jedi, but fairly close to Return of the Jedi.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Then
but that's what I
have
saw.
no idea where they would go.
Yeah. Or it could be, yeah. I mean, that could have been like the initial, but it could be that that would be weird because of the New Republic getting wiped out.
Yeah, I was just going to say. But if they're a rogue squadron, then they don't really need an organization to be associated with, right?
Right. They can kind of
many senses of the word, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's not just our title. That's what we are.
I mean, it would be awesome if this were Wedge and Rogue Squadron. I would love that. Wedge Antilles.
That would be fantastic.
That would be. I would love that.
The actor's still around. He was in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, he led part of the battle in. So
yeah. So that one would be fun.
Yeah.
We also know that there's a Taika Waititi movie, which I can only imagine is going to be bonkers.
Crazy.
Yeah.
We all hope.
And so good. Come on.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Thor Ragnarok was really, really fun to watch. And I mean, everything that I've seen him in, I'm just like, you are kind of weird, but I love you. Like it's yeah.
Like, what's the most colorful Star Wars possibility? You know, just I can't even imagine what it will be about. I don't know,
because he went all in Mandalorian, and that was, you know, the arc that he put into it with the droid and the way to talk about the droids, and that's something that's been coming. That's something that has a lot of people keep asking the question, like, autonomy for the droids, what does that mean? So maybe that's what it is it's finally the you know, the droid uprising, and that's that's where he's going to go with it, and that would be really interesting.
Yeah, listeners, if you have any thoughts, send them our way, because obviously we have not a clue where he's going to go with this. The other couple movies that are coming out, we know that there's a Kevin Feige movie coming out, and again, know nothing beyond that, but that should
Kevin
be
Feige
really
being the guy who's in charge of Marvel. He's the Kathleen Kennedy of Marvel's movies.
Yep.
That's kind of
so
wild.
That one,
which is sort of mind blowing, because it's like, where does he find time to come up with the Star Wars script and treatment?
It was interesting. I was reading like an article about it, and he did make the point that it was a one movie thing, not a series.
Right.
So at least it's, you know, I think he recognizes that he can't, he doesn't have the time to do a whole series, but he could do a movie. So the other interesting one to bring up, but we have not heard anything about in a few years, is the potential Rian Johnson trilogy. And do you guys have any predictions on if those are, is that even going to happen?
Speaking of Westerns, that one has ridden off into the sunset. After the Last Jedi stuff. Yeah.
After the reception of I just,
if Andrew were here, it would get a little ugly on this podcast, I think. But I really enjoyed The Last Jedi myself. So I think he brings a really interesting directorial point of view. That if it wasn't caught up in a storyline that people had their hearts set on, certain things happening a certain way, that he may have the creative freedom to really wow us as a total fandom, but I just don't know if that's really going to happen or not. Maybe they'll allow him to, or have him direct one of these series, episodes to see how people respond to that, possibly. Because they've certainly, they've had a lot of different actors come in on these series, especially Mandalorian, and really, just try something out, try out their point of view and see how people respond to it, how it works with the story and the series. And we've gotten some good results from that. I mean, Robert Rodriguez, I don't know how far in advance they were wanting him to do the Book of Boba Fett series, but people just loved him directing in The Mandalorian. So I don't know. If they would do that for Rian Johnson, but
I don't know if Rian Johnson wants to. That's kind of
sure.
More of the
it's a fair
issue
question.
might be.
Because have you guys seen Knives Out?
Yes.
I love Knives Out.
Awesome.
Yeah. Like
I was super excited to see Rian Johnson's take on Star Wars even before it came out. It's just what he was handed was so problematic, and then what he decided to do with it was make it more problematic. And it's just kind of like, it was. I was very stunned walking out of that movie that was something that he had made, and you could tell that his hands were tied to certain things, and he wasn't allowed all of the freedom that he wanted. And so I just I would love to see what he comes up with independent of anything else. Like, okay, here's your trilogy, you make it whatever. I think that would be fantastic. Does the fandom want him? Probably not. Does he want to do it? Probably not. So I think it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If he had his own sandbox to play in, it would be subversive and really, really cool. But
yeah,
I think we're not going to get it either. So, that's pretty much, I guess, it. Was there any other, I guess, kind of concluding thoughts that any of you had about what's coming up in the Star Wars world, universe, galaxy?
I think it's interesting. They clearly said after Rise of Skywalker and the Solo movie that they're stepping away from movies for a while. They're taking a pause on the movies. That they went too far too fast, and it bit them. And they clearly did. I love Solo. It was a fun film. I'm glad I like what it resulted. But I can imagine on their end it was terrible from their, like, in the sense of making the movie was a bad experience for them. So. But Rogue One was awesome, those sorts of things. And so they stepped away from the movies, and they're going to come back because Star Wars, while we've seen can be great on the small screen, it is a big screen franchise. And it always needs to have that part of it there. So I'm glad to see that they at least plan to bring it back on the big screen in a couple of years.
Well, I like the idea that they are interested in this new kind of unplumbed space of the High Republic. And I really hope that they find their grounding in it, because this is, we've had Old Republic stuff. We've had post Jedi stuff, but what we really have been missing is that 1,000 years between the Old Republic and the movies. That there's just so much there. I mean, it's a huge wealth of amazing stuff. You've got the entire life story of Yoda. You've got the Jedi at their height. You've got a civilization that's operating at full capacity, full potential, and still somebody wants to subvert that for some reason and do something sinister with it. Why? Where did that come from? The Sith have been there all along. There's always been the two. So what did that look? There's just so many questions to answer in that space that could be done really well. And I think that it deserves a real fleshing out, and to separate it from the Skywalker story. To do that, the Skywalker story is the grounding for it. We know what's coming, and that's I think that's one of the things that make Rogue One so interesting. Like the moment when they start calling out Blue Squadron call signs, and my son's like, Blue Squadron, and I'm like, Oh boy.
I'm afraid we know what happens to them.
We know what happens to the Blue Squadron now, right? We figured this one out. So but I think that kind of stuff is where they really need to be taking the fandom into these spaces where, okay, yes, you know all of these things, but did you know that this happened also?
Yeah, and I would just echo that and say that I think what they're doing right now is they're scratching an itch for the fandom, where they're drawing connections, right? Like we're seeing more and more connections between the different media, the different series, the different storylines and characters that we love and we've come to know, and they're really playing around with them and they're putting them in the different sandboxes, right? Like to see what happens and to see those animated characters come to live action and vice versa. So to me, that's what I'm looking forward to immediately in these series that are coming up like for next year, for that sort of communication between what we know and what is to come, and just the connections that are to be made. So immediately, that's what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, there's so many possibilities, but I feel like Marvel fans have gotten a lot of those connections, you know, and so we're about to get a lot more of those, I feel, in the Star Wars galaxy.
I could echo all of you guys, but I'm not. So I'm going to say that I am the most excited about, and it hasn't been officially announced yet, but I want to see Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn in Ahsoka.
Yes.
So fingers crossed that he is truly the one who's going to be cast as that. But that's that's what I am the most excited about this next year. Before we wrap things up, we do have a few points of listener feedback that we want to get to. And the first feedback comes from Carlos, and he sent this for our 100th episode. And he was just a little bit late in sending it, so I wanted to share it on the podcast for this episode. So here's Carlos's audio feedback about the Secrets of Star Wars podcast.
There was always something that I was always looking for, more information. And into my life came the Secrets of the Star Wars fan podcast. Wow. Everything that has to do with Star Wars, anything that has to do related to the movies, TV shows, streaming series, books, and comic books, this was the best fan podcast place to come and join and to be able to listen and be part of them, because they're like a family. What it is to be talking and listening to Father Andrew, known as Father Fett, Mike, Andrew, Thomas, and Angela. What a great, amazing fan podcast that he's made. The Secrets of Star Wars has been like something out of this world when it comes to understanding better the world of anything related to Star Wars.
So what I really loved about what Carlos had to say was he feels that we act and speak as if we're a family. And one of the cool things that when I talk about the podcast with people, one of the things that they're most surprised about is that we're all over the country and we're not like actually just like hanging out together, in a room doing the podcast. So it's definitely a lot of fun, and I think we very much feel that as well.
Yeah, I just want to thank Carlos for that. Yeah,
right.
It made me cry when I first listened to it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Carlos, for those words for us. The second bit of feedback comes from Abraham. He's written us before, and he is a loyal listener of the podcast. And he says, "Hi, this is Abraham. First of all, I really enjoyed your coverage of Visions. My favorite was The Ninth Jedi, and was very glad to have Thomas's additional insight on all the episodes." Kudos to you, Thomas.
Yeah.
I felt like I appreciated them all much more after listening to your podcast. Specifically about your episode on Akakiri, my particular take on the Force healing ability is that it is really only a dark side ability. In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine mentions to Anakin that in using the dark side, he will be able to keep his loved ones safe, even keeping them from dying. The reason Rey would be able to force heal was because of her ties to the dark side through her lineage. Obviously, she could at least use other dark side powers. And Ben could do it because of his own dark side connection. Tsubaki then really would need to tap into the dark side to heal Misa. Love your podcast and hope to hear more from you. I am excited for your coverage on the Book of Boba Fett. Also, I like the nicknames. Merry Christmas, Abe.
Awesome.
So my thought there just quickly is that I'm still of the opinion that Palpatine was just manipulating Anakin. And I mean, because I always at least internally associate healing with the light side and a good thing and not inherently connected to the dark side. And I tend to think that Masago was also just lying and manipulating Tsubaki, but that's up for debate. So
I actually had a theory about this. So I was thinking about it when we were talking about it last time and then a little bit more afterwards. What if the healing thing is about a lack of detachment? So we're moving into the realm of like talking about Jedis as stoics, right? And they have to be detached from things. They have to be willing to allow things to happen the way they are. They can step in defense, but they can't alter the course by healing someone back from an injury or healing someone back from death, essentially, which is what we see in the most extreme cases, right? And so that's why it's a quote unquote dark side ability. Now, Rey is not beholden to all of the Jedi, like don't get attached to things, mantras, right? So she has no compunctions about doing it because it's not part of her being a Jedi. It's just she's a Force user and she is just open to whatever the Force allows her to do. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on that one.
I like it. I'll allow
that.
It pans out.
So I think that is going to wrap up our conversation. Listeners, of course, we want to hear what you are excited about in all of the upcoming Star Wars content in the next few years. What are you excited about? What are you skeptical about? What are your thoughts about all of the stuff that's coming? Please let us know because we would love to hear your take. You can let us know various ways. You can email us any feedback at starwars@sqpn.com. You can also comment on our Facebook page, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And you can tweet at us, and we are on Twitter at SQPN. We would like to take a moment to thank our patrons, of course, who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Zurin L, Daphne B, Sylvia L, Samuel A, and Fernando F. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, your favorite podcast player. And definitely, if you want to follow us on the YouTube channel, you can find us at the SQPN YouTube channel. Just search for SQPN and make sure to hit that bell to receive notifications for all new episodes. And you can find all of our previous episodes by going to sqpn.com/Star Wars. And so we will be back in 2 weeks as we begin our look into the highly anticipated series, The Book of Boba Fett. So we'll start with episode 1 and we'll get back into a weekly podcast as we take a look at all those episodes as they stream. So definitely you don't want to miss that. So until next time, Thomas Sanjuro, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Star Wars.
It's been great.
And Angela Silana, thanks for joining us this evening as well.
Appreciated having the boss with us tonight.
Yeah, Dom, it was great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. I will talk about Star Wars anytime, anywhere with anyone. I'm glad to do it with you guys tonight.
Perfect. And once again, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Hi, everyone. This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of StarQuest, with a special message as we approach the Christmas season. This past year, the StarQuest Network has continued to expand our mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture through our many entertaining and informative programs. Now we need your generous financial support to reach new audiences with more of the life-changing and uplifting programming we've been creating for more than a decade. That's why it's very important that we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you are already a supporter of StarQuest, we thank you and ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you're not yet a supporter, please become one now. Every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? Whatever level of support you can offer, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas. And remember that your gifts may be tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. May God bless you this Advent, and may you have a blessed Christmas season.